Hey everyone, welcome to episode 77 of the Ceres podcast. A little bit of news. As you will know by now, we have some welcome news from Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the UK. I thought I should mention it as we spoke about it in the episode with Hugh. The government have now extended the furlough scheme, which is 80% of staff's wages, until March. That's great news in my view. It shows that the government's in this for the long haul. What else could happen, I wonder? Will we see VAT also extended, the VAT reduction of 5% to 5%? I guess that would be welcomed by many in the hospitality industry. And, it is just a really big thing that the government are stepping up here. I know many may disagree with other things, other aspects of how the government's dealt with this, but from a business point of view, I think the support's there for the majority. Online store reminder, this month's offer is 25% off the fish cake mix, as you may have heard in the last introduction. To get yours, set up an account on our website, choose the fish cake mix, use the code November25 for 25% off. It's important that you do set up an account. You probably can't see anything if you don't. If you haven't heard of our fish cake mix, then you definitely need to order and supercharge your homemade fish cake offering. From one product, you literally have hundreds of ways to make great, tasty, profitable fish cakes or croquettes. We've also got loads of recipes to get you started on our hands-on section on the newsfeed. It is probably worth you being on our mailing list. We don't spam you, we don't annoy you and send you emails all the time. It's literally just one email a month with the roundup of the news and a discount coupon. So far this year, it has only been once a month. If there's an emergency or something going off, then we'll let you know again. But again, it's once a month. You'd be crazy not to join. So remember, use the code November25 when you make your purchase of fish cake mix. Now, many of you will start noticing that, many of our customers even will start noticing that we have redesigned the Ceres natural batter mix bags. We thought we'd go for a fresher look, and we hope to refine the whole product line in good time. As you know, we believe in moving with the times, and we wanted to represent the unadulterated nature of our natural batter mix. The same business, you shouldn't be sentimental, but you know what? Without the natural batter mix, we wouldn't be here. So I can't help but be sentimental about that product. It fits the bill. It does everything. Takeaways, deliveries, you name it. We don't have to reinvent it. It's just a great product. It's British. It's just great. We love the fact that it's British wheat, 30 miles around the M25. It's just a great product, and we believe in it, and we wouldn't be without it. So much so that we don't need to reinvent it. Recently, we uploaded an article to our website about the use of business credit cards. The fact is, you're spending money. Every day you're spending money, paying off bills, buying stock, utilities, you name it. Well, you might as well accumulate points. Think about it. If you're spending the money anyway on purchases and you clear your balance in full by a direct debit every month, then you are better off gaining points. Why not net yourself a holiday with the money that you have spent anyway? So it costs you nothing. And if you do, it's worth saying, if you don't pay it off in full and you go over, you're going to spend money on interest, which defeats the object anyway. So get yourself looking at MasterCard, NatWest have points cards, American Express, and start paying your bills with those. They give you a little bit more credit too. Today's guest is Hugh Jones. Hugh is the owner of Finnegans Fish Bar Group. Well, I guess it's a group as there are 6 of them, and he's likely going to have more in the future. We have a really good chat about the world of fish and chips in South Wales. It's a chilled conversation about how he got into fish and chips, what he did before, but also how he's been managing in COVID times. Sounds weird, doesn't it? But I suppose these are COVID times. Anyway, listen to the episode and let us know what you think. Hugh, welcome to the Ceres podcast.
Thank you, Stelios.
How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, we're just coming out of lockdown on Monday. Today is Thursday.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to a rush back to arms because we've been quiet.
So what does this lockdown entail for you guys in Wales?
This lockdown's pretty much similar to yours that you're going into today, actually, in England. So we've had a fortnight, well, just over a fortnight, 17 days, 3 weekends, Guy Fawkes, Halloween, rugby matches, no one can go out, the pubs are closed, cafes, bars, non-essential shops. So pretty much everything's closed. You've got the garages still servicing cars, and takeaways, of course, always been allowed to open. But it's been a big drop this last fortnight for us. We had the clocks go forward, never great, and then it's literally rained until yesterday for about 12 days. So that lockdown sort of meant that, and there's a lot of people in Wales. I've just come back from walking the dog, and I'm going along a 2-3 meter wide path, and there's a woman literally walks on the road, and she had a dog, and I said to her, "They're okay. The dogs are fine like that." She said, "It's not them I'm worried about. It's you."
Wow.
And I thought, my God. So there's a lot of elderly people are literally scared stiff of it.
Petrified.
Yeah. So, and of course, fish and chips does have a good makeup of the older demographic,
Yeah, I guess, and also I suppose in some ways, and we'll touch on the sort of technology moving forward, but they won't be quick to jump onto your click and collect services, your online ordering. They'd just be like, "I'll stay at home. I've got my shopping, and I'll cook at home."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've reverted to that. So the technology isn't kind to them or easy for them to use, and we often have them coming in the shop and say, "Can you do it on our phone?" And everything. But, that was in the early days.
Yeah.
We just did, yeah, we'll do it, or we'll do it on my phone. I'll order it for you now. And they did that across the 6 stores. But yeah, you're spot on. It's a real minefield for them. They just don't get it.
I think also looking at Wales with their lockdown, I think they've got it slightly wrong to some degree, or maybe they jumped into it a bit fast with sort of what you could and couldn't buy from supermarkets. I think some people saw that as a bit of a violation, didn't they?
Oh my God, yeah, there was nearly riots.
Yeah.
You could go in, buy a bottle of vodka. You couldn't buy a bottle to put milk for your baby, because it was a non-essential item, and there was all this kind of thing going on and problems. So it wasn't good. And of course, after a weekend of chaos and petitions, they slackened it and allowed it to be with the government, allowed the supermarkets to take control and decide. But then it was getting crazy. I think
Not being funny, but I said to the missus, like, I saw that they sort of closed off like the kitchen section in supermarkets, and I thought, well, yeah, a microwave probably isn't essential if you have one that works, but if it breaks and you need to replace it, you'd think it's pretty much essential.
exactly.
And like, and I think in a way, did they not just force people to go use Amazon or online instead of using local shops? And I think,
yeah, well, this is the crazy thing. I needed an Ethernet cable for one of our tablets. Was faulty. So that's a non-essential item, isn't it? So in Sainsbury's at Bridgend, you could order online and pick up from Argos in that store. So, they got it completely wrong there. I understand what they did. They closed everyone down, and they didn't want the supermarkets to be able to have a free market, and all the small shops couldn't sell anything, but they could. That was their dilemma. But, I think for fortnight, 17 days, I think they've given most shops in Wales £1,000
yeah,
for closing. If you're a restaurant or you're paying higher term rates from 12,000 up to 50, you had £5,000 in the lockdown if you had to close, if you were forced to close.
yeah.
So but that was hospitality.
Yeah.
Everyone's had £1,000 basically, and if your takings were down 50% or less for the 3 week leading up to the lockdown, you got £1,000. You had to prove it, provide figures in your books, your banking, but
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on. So it's been a very crazy, horrible time, but as you said earlier, quite exciting for fish and chips, because if you have moved with it now and developed, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. Well, you've always been a bit of a mover anyway. You never sort of sit on your laurels. How many shops do you have now? Is it 6 or
We've got
5?
6 now. So look, I could have had 25.
Yeah.
All out of control. I'd probably be dead. Uh, you know, it's because it's hard walking away from one when you run a shop and an operation. It's literally like having kids, and number two is like having child number two. So um, it depends how much your brain can cope with having multiple sites, multiple fryers, people in place. It's okay. I think we got it pretty good.
So when you got your first one in, like, was it 2001? Was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I came up with the fruit trade, and I went to a shop which they offered me in a housing estate for a fruit and veg shop. And I said, "Oh, let me have the fish and chip license." And the developer said, "Well, hang on a minute, you don't know anything about fish and chips." And I said, "Well, I'll learn." I said, "Everyone's got to learn." I was 40 at the time. Not a great point. I had to give up the fruit and veg business for virtually nothing because supermarkets had taken it all away. And like now it's coming back a little bit. There's a bit of a revival. But then it was desperate. But I had supplied 3 or 4 chip shops with Pipers and Tony Lee stuff, and all from Cambridgeshire, Shropshire, Lincolnshire. And I was dropping off sort of for 50p a bag profit in those days. And I was going into their shops thinking, my God, this shop is rough. The menu board, the people who work in there love them. Everything about it was desperate. I thought, if I can't do a job as good as this, or if not better, I need my bum spanked. So I decided to go into it, and we just went from there. Then, and I sort of with fruit and veg. If you can earn money in fruit and veg, usually you can earn money in anything.
Not really.
Yeah, because it is it's a tough old game. You get up in the morning, £500 in your pocket. You go to market. You used to go around 30 different stalls. You buy the best produce. You bring it back home. You're working out the prices as you're driving coming back because the prices change every day. You put it all out on display, and you label it all up. So you're writing out or making up your own labels of the ticket system. So you had to be pretty switched on and pretty good, because you just get washed away if you didn't do that right.
And I suppose you're always against it because you were working with a perishable product as well. So it sort of falls from its best every day. So then your margins obviously sort of decline, I guess, on day 2, day 3, day 4, if that product hasn't moved, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I can remember leaving on Saturday morning, and strawberries were short, 25p a punnet, whatever they were, and I could see the Spanish lorry coming in. He'd been delayed at Calais or Folkestone, and I thought, that's going to have pallets and pallets of strawberries on there. So the salesman came running after me. It was a bit late that morning. He said, "Do you want some strawberries, Puthcall, seaside, sunny day?" And I said, "Yeah, David." I said, "You won't want to serve me what I'm going to pay you." He says, "I'll serve you 2 pallets. What do you pay?" I said, 10p. So we did it. We came back with 2 pallets and all the other stuff. And I think I stayed outside the shop for about 9 hours selling those 3 for £1. So it's great. And then we were selling trays then for women to make jam. So yeah, if you didn't sell those, if I sold 1 pallet, not 2, I absolutely did my nuts. So
Do
yeah.
you think? Do you think it gave you a sort of a different discipline coming into this business, or the fish and chip business, like that sort of tradesmanship, that sort of you've got to be a good salesman as such.
Yeah, huge. Because for us, people buy with their eyes, and it's all about the displays. So your shop front, we used to wash it every morning. So obviously that went into that trade. So the shop front's washed every morning. The windows are always clean. There's no finger marks on them. You've got a nice sign. Your cheapest form of advertising is those lights shining on your sign outside. Make it good. Put an A board outside, but don't let them get scruffy. Coming in, shop floor's clean. Staff look good. And a nice display in the cabinet.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that was then, obviously.
well, it sounds pretty basic, but actually, it just shows that you probably walked into a shop that wasn't doing that at all to some degree.
Well, it was empty. It was a brand new
Yeah,
shop.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's basic, just economics, the old Adam Smith thing.
yeah,
You buy for A and you sell for B. So
yeah,
I think, whatever you're doing in retail, it's pretty much the same. You've got to be spot on. You've got to have nice service. Your shop's got to look special.
yeah. No, it has to be. It has to be. And I think that's just a really big thing. But I always love talking to people that came from a different background before, because I think, although I like talking to people that have come through it like I did to some degree, I find people that come from a different skill set or a different business before really do come with a different set of eyes on it.
Oh, huge.
Yeah,
Huge for me. I thought, my God, this is it's hard, nowhere near as hard as fruit and veg, but it's just instead of the early mornings, the late nights, and finding staff then wasn't so bad. Now is much harder. Good staff to get them motivated to come and work in a fish and chip business. So you've basically got to pay until it hurts.
Mm.
You got to pay until it hurts, and that's the only way. And there's no way around that. Because
Yeah.
they'll go off and work in Amazon, or they'll go and work down the local pub as a chef or something, So it's got to be right for them. And yeah, definitely, as you said, when you come in from another trade, especially like fruit and veg, where you're really hands on, when you're a fruiterer or greengrocer in a town, you're like God, you're like Elvis, because everyone knows you.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going there 2-3 times a week. And then obviously over the ensuing years, the supermarket pinched a bit away, but it seems to come round a little bit again. But yeah, you're dead right. Yeah, I
Do,
agree with you 100%.
do you ever see like supermarkets ever pinching the current business we're in, fish and chips? Do you ever see that, or is it just too difficult for them to do?
I don't think they can replicate it. I really don't. I really don't. I know Fish and Chicken do a tremendous job, and he's got 35, 45 shops. I'm not sure exactly how many, split it into two brands. Um, I think he's got it pretty good, and he's done it very, very well. And he runs them very well. But I think
Yeah.
that kind of operation with his head office, no doubt, and all his staff, it's a huge, huge operation. So
Yeah.
uh, it's so personal, a chip shop, isn't it? I've
Mm.
got people going to a chip shop down the road that obviously is not mine. They would never come in my shop, and vice versa, because they leave the oil go a bit dirty, or they change the oil a bit soon. Your chips are paler, your batter's that a bit crisper. They like dark batter. I mean, it's so personal. They don't like your sausages. Maybe you're making a homemade rissoles, which is like a round, like a cricket ball, corned beef,
Yeah.
sort of savoury snack or meal. So, your pies, what pies are you selling? You're selling Hollands, local pies, pucker.
Yeah. It is weird. I think people do have their favorite, regardless of whether they're good or not. And if it's their favorite, it takes a lot to shift them out of that sort of mindset. A lot would have to shift in their perception, for them to say, "Oh, I'm going to go to Finnegans or such and such or such and such." But that loyalty works both ways, doesn't it? Because there's customers that come to you day in day out and wouldn't dream about going to another shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's a lot come, um, strangely, well, maybe not so strangely, the red hot curry sauce.
Mm. I
You
always
know,
found that really strange. I remember when I
yeah,
came to your shop and you were like, Stel, we've got this red curry sauce. And I was like, what do you mean red? Like, and I just couldn't get my head around it. And you were like, it's just red. And I was like, why is it red?
yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, it works both ways. Our biggest, uh, our greatest asset really is obviously the quality that we sell. And as you open up each shop, you've got to be careful that doesn't dilute and keep control of it. And we don't give gear away.
Yeah.
We're probably the dearest in South Wales or Wales.
So Wales, South Wales especially, I think it's quite linked to like the Midlands to some degree, and the portions can be slightly on the hefty side, and the prices probably aren't as elevated as what people would like. How have you managed to sort of skirt around that?
Well, portions has always been a bugbear, at any chip shop. A lot of chip shops were selling 8 to 10 ounce fish, and then when it went expensive, especially the end of last year, they shaved it down to 6 to 8 ounce. Well, it's a bit like when you go in that petrol station. You think, oh, there's a bag of Cadbury's beans there, buttons. You can buy them for £1, and you buy them. There's a handful in there, so they've done it price sized, haven't they? They've sized it for £1. So I didn't want to go down that route of dropping the size of the fish or dropping the size of the portion of the chips, because I just didn't want to be seen like that. So we charge, we give away, we give away hefty portion chips, I'd say, but some customers say that's not enough. So we're
Yeah, I'd imagine
two,
it.
£2, £2 for a small. But we bought the Hopkins chip scoops, that does the portioning.
Mm.
But we bought their regular to do our small,
Yeah,
and we had to buy their large to do our regular.
yeah.
So that
Well,
gives you an idea. So, but we don't load it. It's leveled. I mean, you can load any kind of scoop as much as you want. Again,
yeah,
so there is. So it is a problem. In Puthcall town, the seaside town. We've got a 100-seater restaurant in normal times and a small takeaway. But there's 8 other takeaways there as well. And it's a small old town, busy in the summer, day trippers, campsite, biggest campsite in Europe. So they're all cheaper than me, but we still take good money. And we've just switched to sunflower oil now instead of palm oil back in February.
What made you do that? Was it environmental? Was it just what made you do that?
Totally environmental. We sampled the sunflower from KTC over a month in 2 shops, so it lasts a little bit longer. It fries very clean. When you're pulling it out of the oil, it's almost like water's coming off the product,
Yeah.
So it's great. So I said, I'm just not happy with palm oil. It's always been a bugbear, even though the palm oil we were using was sustainable and had the stickers on the box and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just had enough, and the product was actually better. So it was no-brainer.
Well, I think if you've made like a choice that helps environmentally and for your product, then that's fine. I think that's a great thing. I do like palm oil. I think I like the robustness of it. I like the way it cooks the food. Same with dripping, to be honest. I think I like the way that they can make a really crispy product at not overly aggressive temperatures. But I think that I wish dripping in some ways was vegetarian, because it would be the perfect medium in some ways, because it is, it's a byproduct, and there's not many other oils out there that are byproducts.
No, exactly. Yeah. If you tried to use dripping down here, you wouldn't do any business.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. I had fish and chips and dripping yesterday, and it just left a nice taste. It was just nice, and I just enjoyed it. I don't know, and I get what you mean. That I think it is a regional thing. Like you couldn't say you can't use dripping in Lancashire, or you can't. Well, you definitely can't use it in London. I don't think. No. London. I think Wales also has a lot of resemblances with London as well. Like, and especially when you look at like the use of Peter's pies and the liquid oils that people use there, and certain batters that are used in London are used in Wales too.
All right. Okay.
It's interesting. I don't know why there's a lot of resemblances. But I think you're right. I think if you're happy and you've made that choice, then why not? It makes sense.
It works well. I mean, a couple of people commented who changed their oil, and I said, yeah, they just say it tastes a little bit cleaner. There's not a lot of difference. Like say, it lasts. It's more expensive, but the longevity sort of balances it all out.
I'm really surprised about it, because a lot of people say to me that when they move over to the higher lake oil, that they feel like it lasts longer than palm oil, which again, to me, technically seems wrong, because palm oil has more saturated fat. But yeah, it could be. It's just interesting, because usually that is the strongest type of fat. So
yeah, we probably get 2-3 days a week, or 2-3 days longer out the sunflower.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good product. I like it.
One thing I was wondering, your last name's Jones. Where does the name Finnegans come from?
Okay, well, basically we made it up.
Just marketing, yeah.
We went on a week, a sort of 5-day trip to Southern Ireland, Sarah and I, and we were thinking it's just before we opened, and we had all the names, Chip Off the Old Block, the Fighting Fryer, Salt and Battery, Hughes Chippy, and all these things, all a bit naff. And I thought, well, I didn't want to become like Hugh Jones Greengrocers, and my name was sort of above it, and I didn't really want to be associated with it in that way. So we went right down to the Irish countryside, and we stopped at the pub, and it was when the British Lions games on. We stayed the night there. It was the most amazing Irish pub. It was called Finnegans. So I said, how about Finnegans Fish Bar? There's this oldie-worldy sort of thing of a fish bar, which is a bit oldie-worldy, everyone calls it fish and chip shop. So we decided from then it's become Finnegans. So.
When I was doing a bit of research earlier, just like refreshing myself with everything, I noticed that there's a place in Barry called Finnegans as well. But yeah, and I noticed that you've had to say like, "Oh, this isn't us," and that's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, so I guess they were a pub or something, and they've called it after that, haven't they? Yeah, but
no, it's a big pub.
Oh, okay.
And used to do fish and chips on an A board outside. So Barry's about 30 miles from us. It's about 20 miles from our nearest shop. And just this last 6 months or 3 months, they either open a shop next to it or somewhere in Barry Island. They call it Finnegans Fish Bar. So that's in the hands of our solicitors at the moment.
Oh, really? It's had to go down that road.
Yeah, they don't know it yet, but it will be, because if they've started trading, it does belong to the pub.
Yeah.
They started trading before us. That's fine. They even spell it the same way with an E instead of two I's. Spell it the same way as us, and they call it the same name. So we've had a shop up in Bakewell, Derbyshire, called themselves Finnegans Fish Bar, and said they're award winning and all the stuff, menu, everything was the same as ours. So we used a great firm in Cardiff. We had already trademarked Finnegans in the food industry, the name, and we wrote to them. We wrote to them in through the solicitors and said, I rang them, but they weren't having any of it. I think he was a property developer running something with the system. He decided to open a chip shop. And we spent a couple of quid on that, not a lot. And solicitors are great. They had it down and changed within 24 hours. Court injunction, cease trading, and whatever it was.
Yeah, I suppose once you send over a professional cease and desist, they've got a choice at that point, haven't they? And
they've got the choice, yeah.
And I think it'd be silly to take the fight because you'd probably win.
Yeah, we would, because it's called, the actual legal phrase for it is passing off. So someone's trying to pass off a business as yours. So we had one in Port Talbot just before we opened our Port Talbot shop in 2006. Guy there changed his kebab shop into a chip shop, called it Finnegans. Had the lit back menus, everything outside. I went to see him. He was just quite abrupt, as someone would be. Got the letter then 3 days later. He's closed then for a day when he's changing it all. Cost him about $3,000.
I know some people can call a shop after something on accident. Like a friend of mine, he called the shop after his mum. And I was at his shop recently helping him. And a woman comes in and goes, I'm taking photos because you've called the shop after my shop. And he just says, I just called it after my mum. And I met his mum. Yeah. She was there. And the woman goes, oh, so you didn't do anything? No, he goes, come in, you can have a look around. And there was nothing else copied. And she goes, well, that's all right then. And they were in different towns, completely. I guess just as close as you. But if they're actually copying the colours, the signage and everything, that's where it becomes a bit, that's like you say, passing off, isn't it, I guess?
It's passing off the business. So we had that one. We had the one I mentioned in Derby, Bakewell. There's one actually in Minehead, Butlins, called Finnegans. It was spelt with two I's, so we couldn't do anything about that. And that was fine. They've been trading. So there are a couple of little Finnegans I've run around the UK. There's a lady running a little corner shop one, I rang up, she said, hi, Finnegans. And I said, oh, no problem. I looked on Google Maps. I said, look, I got Finnegans. Oh, have you? That's brilliant. When did you call yours Finnegans? And I thought, I love her. I'm not going to worry about that,
Yeah, she's not passing off, is she?
No, she's not.
I think I know they say the whole flattery phrase. It's just a form of flattery, but it's business. If someone opened a place and called it McDonald's and went for the Golden Arches, they wouldn't allow it, would they?
My God! Well, the one in Barry's caused us about 10, 15 complaints on Facebook and Google reviews.
Wow.
This has been, whatever the problems are, I don't really want to say it, but there's been a lot, especially in the last 8 weeks. So I don't know how long they'll be open yet. But I've had to write to them and say, look, can you take it down? It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
So I'll pay a little visit then first and see whoever's running it, whoever owns it, and speak to them.
Yeah.
And then the solicitors are aware of it now. So they said, just try that first, because obviously there's no money involved then. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's not the end of the world. It's just annoying.
Yeah. What would you say, you've gone from 1 to 6 shops. What would you say, the biggest growing pains were, for you over that period?
Logistics, isn't it? Do you cut the fish in one place? Do you cut it in all 6? Same with your potatoes. Do you have a central store and you deliver to each shop? Staff, do they swap around? Do you have an area manager? And things go wrong. You're running down to one shop. It is like having a young family, and you grow it like that.
So what did you do in those cases then? Did you have a central place in the end, or did you just let every shop do its own thing?
We let every shop do its own thing in the first ways. but I cut all the fish in one place. So once we went from 1 to 2, I was cutting it all in Bridgend and delivering to Puthcall. And then as they opened, the fish was done in a central place. We bought a van with shelves, refrigerated, etc., to distribute it. And everything's done by WhatsApp groups now at the moment. We're still growing, we're still developing. We're not high tech. And the potatoes are done in 4 shops and satellited out to 2. The 2 that don't do it, because I don't. With the best will in the world, if you run out, you run out, and you don't want to be closing a shop because the name is in the name, isn't it? It's chip shop, so you've got to have the gear there. So often I know a friend of mine up in Blackpool, Alistair from Seniors. He's got a great operation. He's rumbling a central depot, and he's delivering ship barrels and black boxes. But then he's also vac packing 10-kilo bags, and that's their backup. And once he's vac packed them, it's great. The next day, it's amazing, and then they're just ripping those open. So that's the tie over. So I think we're going to have to go to that in some shape or form.
That'll be
soon.
a next move.
Yeah, I think so.
But it sort of makes sense. Like, we supply a few chains, and I think that but one of them has a central unit, and they do all their chips there, all their fish there. They've not gone as far as doing curries and gravies and peas there, but I think for the most part, the important things are done, which means that they can at least have some semblance of consistency, if that makes sense. Because
our spud guy does all 6 shops.
well, okay, so there is some consistency there.
Yeah, we have the same spuds in all the shops. We have the same machines. We have the same blade cut, 17 mil, quite a thick chip we use. We dry wipe them in our own little way that we do, and he does that in all 6 shops. So then the fish van will cut the fish in the mornings, distribute it, and then the 2 shops that need the chips that don't have a chip operation, he picks it up and drops it off to them. So it kind of works well at the moment.
Yeah.
But there's no longevity in it if I'm going to expand to 10 or anything. We're gonna get central base.
And is that on the cards? Is that something you're looking for?
I don't know, Stelios. I don't really know. I think I'm quite interested in a few little dark sites, but I want to wait till see when we come out of all this craziness, if the click and collects and the deliveries really drop back, or was it really going to be a thing of the future? And if it is, we'll look at a couple of dark sites. But when I say dark site, we'll still have the door open for walk-ins, so maybe that's the wrong term, but concentrating on that click and collect and delivery. So, it depends. I mean, if you want a site that's going to take 10 grand plus in South Wales, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And you need to do 10, really.
Well, as a managed business, I guess, you need to be in that double figures, really, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
What
do you
got
think?
To be in that 5 figures.
Well, years ago, I think they always used to say, like a few years ago, like a couple, if they had a fish and chip shop, could get away with taking 4 or 5 grand a week. Like a husband and wife team, and if it was a business, it would be about like a chain, at least 8, 9. So, do you think those figures have shifted upwards now? Would you say?
It all depends on the pricing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's the old turnover is vanity, profit is sanity thing again. So you've got to hit that balance. And if you're in an area which is a poor area and there's a lot of chippies, doing a massive bag of chips at £2, you've got to make your choices carefully, haven't you? Because I think if lots of my friends, so I'm going to open a chip shop, they sort of seen that we've done it quite well. And I said, listen now, you need to seriously think about it. You've never been in retail before. You're seeing all the good things that come out of it and success, but you don't see the first 5 years of 14-hour days. And I said, if you open up the shop and take 5 grand a week, you won't be able to afford another fryer. So you're there 5-6 nights a week frying. You prepared to do that? So that's the big shock for them, is when they sit down in reality and think, oh, no, actually, I'm not.
I think a lot of people struggle with the discipline of a fish and chip business as well, because, a sixth of your income has to go to the good old HMRC, and you've got to be pretty much disciplined to sort of, I know it's not a sixth of your income technically, but it's essentially that. And having that discipline for every quarter to pass on that money, I think that's quite a bit of a discipline for people as well, isn't it?
I don't really see it like that. I mean, no one likes paying VAT, no one likes
No.
paying taxes, but you've just got to build it into your menu price. And
Yeah.
then when it comes in, I mean, some people can put it away monthly, can't they? All you got to do is divide your takings by 6, and there's your
Weekly.
VAT. You can do it weekly and just put it in there, and it's not yours. I think the problem is when people come to the end of a quarter, is if they haven't got a rein on things, they don't know exactly what they're making. And in the early days, I just thought, we've done 5-6 grand this week, week, or we've done 8 grand, and when we had one shop, and I didn't need to. But that's the other discipline you learn as you're getting bigger, is you've got to work out, every single cost you got. Because if you're running 6 shops and the wages run away, or they've got too many staff, you're just throwing money down the drain. So I think it's a discipline. Yeah, of course it is. But, it's got to be done. So don't mess about with it. Just put it to one side and pay it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And did you find it like a bit of a learning curve once you sort of got your first restaurant as well? Because obviously you'd always ran takeaways, and the restaurant is your most recent one, isn't it?
Oh, my God. Never run a restaurant. I'm never going to have a restaurant again. No way. It's a bloody nightmare.
In what way?
Oh, it's a lot of hassle. We knew exactly what we're doing with fish and chip takeaway. Went in there quite happy. It's all set up, been a restaurant for, I don't know, 40 years, run by the Italians, the family Sidolis. It's great, all set up. A little bit weird at the top. There's no refrigeration. We had to move a few things around, and lovely, spotless, beautiful. But I don't know, just the hassle, plates, dishes, toilets. Um, I know it sounds pathetic, but it was a real pain, and I'm
Yeah.
never going to do another restaurant or sit down again as
Oh,
long as I
really?
live.
Not even like a casual one where, like, I don't know, if you imagine like a Nando's, people can just have it there and bin it themselves and leave, or
But
is it that
maybe just sit down. The restaurant we got, we don't do starters, we don't do desserts.
so it's just typical fish and chip restaurant?
You just come in, have your fish and chips. I think you can have a tub of Joe's ice cream, the local ice cream, like you get in cinema, little round tub. They sit down, but it's just, I don't know. We found it difficult and quite challenging. A lot of hassle. But the big thing now that everyone's finding, I'm sure they are, is staff. It's the age-old problem, isn't it? But even more so the last 2-3 years, absolute nightmare. But everyone's in the same boat. And I got a little place in France. I go down there, some lovely bars, restaurants. They got exactly the same problem. So it's not just there.
I know you're quite hot on the figures. So have you found it hard, sort of keeping on top of the figures in the restaurant as in comparison to the takeaway? Like, your staffing, keeping that at a respectable level. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, we've got a couple of small shops where you don't need more than takeaways, more than 3. And one shop only can maximum get 4 in. Otherwise, you're wasting time putting 5. There's just no room. And it takes phenomenal money. Where to take that same money in the restaurant, which has got a little takeaway on the side, takes 11 staff,
wow,
so 10. Because you're doing a little bit on the takeaway, so you've got to keep your eye on that. You've got to have someone up there, even if it's only 500,000 pound a day. And you've got the restaurant. We don't want them really waiting more than 15 minutes. That's our sort of goal, 10 minutes preferably. In and out, wipe the table down in normal times, and off they go. But it's you get your dishes mounted up. We got all the gear, but I just find it major hassle, and the staffing just eats into that profit.
have you managed to? So what would you be able to share? Like, what sort of staff, what your staff percentage is at the restaurant? Like in terms of turnover, would it be,
30,
30%?
30 to 35.
And then in a takeaway, what would your average turnover of staff be there? Would you say?
Well, we can get it right down to about 8 turnover percentage wise. You mean?
Yeah, percentage wise.
Yeah. We can get it right down really low. And we open all day, don't forget. So we
Yeah.
don't close between 2 and 4. And we're 7 days a week. We can get that right down to about 20%.
Wow, it's significant then for you.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
And the restaurant's good. Don't know, obviously, if they sit down and have fish and chips, it's 10 and a half quid. So the margins are much better. And, with alcohol, it's licensed as well.
What was it? What was it like taking over like an established business? Because again, it was a very well-known fish and chip business within the area, and I know you are too. But it's almost like one established name taking over another established name. Does that go down well with people?
No. It did in a way. Look, we had all our customers. Oh my God, thank God you're doing sit down. Can't get it any better than straight out of the range, sitting in the box onto a plate, not in boxes, not getting crushed up, fab. And then all the old Sidoli's customers, and they had their own way of doing their chips, and they had their own way of doing all their sauces and cutting their fish, which, like, for me, didn't suit our operation. And we did a bigger fish, just did things differently. I'm not saying it's any better, any worse, but some of their customers did not like that. And it was a really good product, which is quite a wind up. But then what we lost, we gained with ours. So people don't like change.
It's a fair point. Yeah, it's a fair point, and I think that is it. It did become like an establishment in the area, so they would have gone there even for its faults. They just liked it the way it was, I guess.
Yeah, there's no faults per se. It's just a different way of doing it. I mean, but the boys there's 5 brothers, and 2 of the brothers, the Sidoli brothers, were running it. And one of them was getting into his 70s, the other one getting towards 70. I'd always nagged them because I thought this is going to be great. It's up near the promenade, sit down. It's the only sit down restaurant outside of Beale's, really, that can sit that many. And so the less of a go of it. So I can't say it's been easy, but it's enjoyable. But I definitely wouldn't get another one. I'm just happy with takeaways as far as the operation for obvious reasons.
Do you sort of, would you, moving forward, I know you're not in a rush to get another site, but would you, what you prefer, buying existing fish and chip shops with goodwill, or do you prefer empty units?
I don't mind either.
You don't mind either?
I don't mind either. I don't know if chip shops are actually going to fetch the kind of money they're worth now, like they did back 10, 15 years ago. I really don't. I don't think there's many people out there with, if you want to sell your chippy for 300-400 grand, I think there's many people out there with that kind of money. Definitely no youngsters. They won't be able to get hold of the money. They won't be able to deposit. They won't get a loan. So I think it'll have to be an existing operator that knows your business. Think, I want to add that to it. So, I think it's gonna be, for me, going forward. It doesn't matter whether it's empty. We've had one, two, three. All of our sites have been empty shops except for the 2 in Porthcawl.
Okay.
So a seaside chippy get usually handed down through generations, isn't it? So I decided when this one came up for sale, I used to go as a kid, I bought it. So that was an existing premises, paid a lot for that. And Sidoli's, we paid them and had a lease off them. But all the other 4 are brand new shops, and we've just shop fitted them out.
When you're looking at purchasing a shop, in your head, what's the figure that you're doing to calculate it? Like, there's a lot of figures that are banded around when it comes to sort of buying and selling a fish and chip shop. And I've heard the old 40,000 per thousand, 30,000 per thousand, and then I've heard based on what was it, 10 times profit. I've heard that one banded about as well. That gets you sort of close to where you want to be. Where is it for you? What are you looking at? Are you doing have you got a spreadsheet? Is it a gut feeling? Is it what you're happy to pay?
Yeah, it's a gut feeling what I'm happy to pay. Yeah. Obviously, their turnover counts.
Of course, yeah.
And we got to look, read between the lines to make sure it's all kosher and everything like that. You can't be saying one thing and doing another, because you can't have the penny in the bun, So gut feeling, and really it's knowing what I think I can do when I buy it.
So potential,
yeah. So if I think that's an $8,000 a week shop, we might have a pop at it, and then we build in the equation. Then what's the range like? What does the shop look like? They're usually rough if they're existing businesses. No offense to anyone, but they just run it down, So you think, well, I need to spend another 100 here. So you add that onto the buying price. And you just got to do your sums,
Yeah, definitely. And then I suppose you need to factor in, does it fit within your current stable of shops, I guess? Because
absolutely,
And is there much difference between your shops and their locations? Or are they all quite homogenized? Are they all quite similar customer base?
Yeah, there's a little bit of difference. So Swansea's in the middle of what they call Llansamlet Enterprise Zone, Swansea Enterprise Zone. So it's a cross between a trading estate and a shopping area. There's a mix in there. So I've got Joe's Ice Cream next to me, Papa John's and Greg's, and then facing us is a Costa drive-through. So that was our first going into that, and I thought, we'll see how it goes. Rent was okay, fairly high. It was okay, and we gave it a pop, and it's been good. It's been regular. Then the Baglan one was in the middle of a housing estate outside Port Talbot in a suburb. The same with the Bridgen one, which I started off first of all in. And then Puthcall, the two seaside ones, the ones where they can fluctuate a lot. The winter you'll take nothing, summer you'll take good money. And then when we just opened now, it was a bit of a dilemma, the new one we just opened, because it was a 3/4 of a mile from my first shop that I ever opened. And it was on the main road, really good position, very visible, with a massive council estate behind. And the road was really the divider. We were in a private housing estate with houses of 2, 3, 400,000. And then half a mile of the site was an old labour club and snooker club, and the guys developed it, put housing association flats and 3 shops there. So it came up, and I thought, what are we going to do about this? Because you're going to cannibalise a bit, obviously. But we made the decision, bit the bullet, and we went in there, and we called it Finnegans Extra.
Okay.
And it's got a great pull-in just off the road. It's no hassle to when you're passing to call in. So it's probably taken, it's taken good money. It's affected the other shop, obviously. Yeah. But when you add the two together and you think what you may have lost to someone else, I've never done that before, ever. If there's someone there and the competition will roll on, you just go and do it.
Yeah.
But this time I decided to jump in.
Well, I suppose now that you've also a bit more, you're probably more in a positive balance than what you were when you first started. I suppose you've got to do certain things to try and protect your sort of areas in some ways.
Yeah, you've got to try and protect the turnover. Like I say, you don't want to. If you've got a shop doing £10,000 a week and you open one very close nearby, and that does 10 and you drop 5, in essence, your new shop's doing 5. So you just made work for yourself. So it is a gamble. We haven't had that problem as yet. So we've been very lucky, but we worked hard at it.
Yeah. And one thing, like with everything, if you touched on it, you've got some shops that do well in the summer and some that, so then the same shops would dip off in the winter. How are you dealing with that? Are you sort of closing earlier, less hours, less staff, and so on?
Less staff, but that's it. That's no change otherwise. Yeah, because we got the locals, and we had it in the summer. You get influx. That caravan site being the biggest in Europe. We're talking about one town now. I'm only in the seaside town of Puthcall. And there's a lot of good shops there. There's some Italian lads, Franco's. They've taken over one of the old Sidoli sites a couple of years ago. You've got Beals that down near a park in a very good position. I think they've been there since 1937. Family business, great operators, good product. Got one on the seafront. Got one by the fairground. We got My Two, which is a sit-down takeaway, and then a separate takeaway just around the corner from Beals. So there's one opened up here where I live now in the estate here, Rest Bay Estate, a small one, just opened 8 weeks ago. So I don't know how he's doing. So it's just kind of frustrating, really. There's so many, but that's life, and that's the way it goes.
I suppose in some ways, though, like we touched on earlier, if the cost of acquisition now is getting higher, or even harder to get, and if not so much that they're getting high, but they're still out of touch for the average person, that probably will stop people from just taking over fish and chip shops, wouldn't it, to some degree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know a lot of youngsters now, they've just got a different way of looking at things. I mean, obviously there's some cracking young people coming out of school and university are prepared to work really hard, but a lot aren't. And they want the 30,000, 40,000 a year plus without putting the hours in, without working weekends, without working nights. And that's the jobs they're looking for.
But in fairness, you and me probably want that for our kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jack's working the business with me. He's 26. He's in it. He went away to school up in Brecon. He had a good education. The girls have obviously helped out all the lives as grown up. Poppy came into it, but it wasn't for her. Hannah's working in London. So, yeah, it's the youngsters now, I think, unless they're prepared to really work double the hours for a normal wage, in the beginning, they're not going to be able to do anything like that. And chip shops to them, I think, is just they just see it as a nightmare.
I think I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday, and he's self-employed to some degree, and he was saying the problem is today is that people they want all the holidays, they want to work 9 till 5 with an hour's break, and like you say, they want the good wages and they want all the perks. And then there's other people that know that they're going to be self-employed, work hard, and they don't work hours; they work until the work's finished. And I suppose
Exactly.
there's always going to be that difference in people, isn't there? Really?
Exactly. We had an old Irish guy working for us doing the spuds, and he was brilliant, amazing. But he only wanted to do 4 days a week. I said, Tom, why are you only doing 4 days a week? He says, because I can't get by on 3.
I like it.
So I just stood there and I couldn't really answer it,
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, there's a lot of exactly what you said, Stelios. We have got some really good youngsters, I must say, though, in our shops, and a lot of A-level students that are working, and they've started university or tried to start university this year, and they got their names down to come back and work, for the month they got off for Christmas and the same for Easter. And in the early days in the fruit and veg shop, I had absolutely loads of young lads working for me because it's a physical job. And I really didn't have a problem with them back in those days in the 1980s. And I know them all quite well still now. They're teachers, managing directors. And you can tell a lad who's going to do well within the first day. You can tell if they're going to do well, within the first day working with you.
You could just sort of tell the people that are enterprising and the people that just sort of like they're there because their dad told them to come and get a job or something.
Well, yeah, we get that. We get a lady ring up. Oh, my son's looking for a job, and I said, "Why are you ringing?" I said, "Tell him to come in and come and work a shift here, or whatever." And would you pay for that? I said, "We'll give him a couple of quid." But I said, "Not really. I mean, it's him trialing us, not us trialing him." And then he'd go on probation if he's not right after a month. It's obviously not for him. Does he play rugby? Oh yeah, he plays rugby, so he can't work Saturdays. Oh no. Right, okay. So that's one of the busiest days. What about Friday night? So he doesn't like rugby. I said, all right, wrong job. Wrong job.
Well, I think that is the thing. Like, if you're going to work in any form of hospitality, you are going to work the hours when everybody else is out having a good time. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I don't care whether it's a hotel, restaurant, pub, fish and chip shop. That is the hours that you're generally going to have to work. Wouldn't we all like to work Monday 9 till 5?
Oh my God, yeah.
But that just doesn't work like that. I think I think the problem is now I think everybody wants this, and I think there has been a mass exodus for the last 20 years where everyone's moved into trying to move to academic type jobs, but actually the other skill-based jobs, the trade-based jobs, actually do really well, and they're good for people. So I think we're going to see more people go that way. I think so. With COVID, we had the initial lockdown. How was that initially for you guys? Were you caught off guard, or were you sort of okay going into it, or a bit of both?
Well, we saw it coming, and I can remember I think it was a Monday. Bojo was there at a shutdown, so he didn't really make it that clear. But takeaways and food providers, like in the takeaway industry, didn't have to close, did they, at all, ever? But we decided to close for 3 weeks, which is the minimum furlough at that time. The staff were all a bit, wound up and worried. So we closed for the 3 weeks. We knew we had their backs covered with wages. And then 3 weeks to the day, we reopened with click and collect. Because in those early days, I'm sure everyone remembers, everyone was scared stiff of everything. So we put the table by the door, had a click and collect system with a company up north. Very brilliant system, easy, not expensive, very versatile. We started with that, and that really took off, which is great because everyone really, if they wanted to have fish and chips or food, they had to download an app or go on our website, click onto the link. So that made a load of people that would never have done it, maybe even people in their 50s and 60s, they've got it. And then once they've tapped in their info, it's there, isn't it? You just reorder, and there's none of this thing, just put in the 3 digits, the CVC on the back to confirm. So that worked really well, click and collect. And then slowly, as people got more confidence, staff and customers, and obviously within the realms of the law, we opened the door. and have 2, 3, 4, 5 people in there. So that was good. I mean, learned so much. I was talking to Fred Capel day before yesterday, and he's a brilliant operator, just like Fish and Chicken. And Fred has the single site, but it's a lovely operation. He's a nice guy, and he was saying the same as I had. The last 6 months. God, what a roller coaster! Learned so much, incredible.
Yeah, learned a lot, forgot a lot. It's just been so fast.
Oh,
It's just this year is
it's
just
just
going to feel.
crazy.
This year is literally just going to feel like an absolute blip. I think we're going to look back on it and just be like, oh, whoa, yeah.
Yeah,
But I
you're
think,
dead right. We've gone from we're getting pages now. I know that seniors, Alistair's just started using them. Fred's been using them a while. He uses a taxi service for his deliveries. We just used staff that got cars for our deliveries. So we're delivering. We're doing click and collect. We're in the process of getting pages for next week, so people don't have to wait outside in winter months in the cold in the car. We've cut our hours back during the initial stages of COVID, right back to the bare bones, really ruthless. And staff hours were cut, and we made it up then with furlough or holidays, whatever. So yeah, and we cut our menu back. We did like an isolation menu, we called it, and it was surprising how much you can take just on a bare menu without all the frills like pineapple fritters and onion rings or potato fritters or whatever it is, those small little things you think, oh, I got to have that on the menu. Well, we didn't.
yeah.
So it's made us super keen and efficient as well.
Does it make you think twice about reintroducing certain items?
Well, we just redid the menu now 3 weeks ago, and we've cut probably 20% items off now completely. All those little ones I was just telling you about.
But those sort of things are really gonna sort of improve your cash flow as well, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it. I think the way that and I get why they do it, but a lot of the wholesalers would be like, "Oh, have you tried this new product? Or have you tried that new product?" And they're like, and they are good margin products. Obviously, you're going to make good margin on them, but they also sit in your freezer for months and months. And I always say to people, you have to imagine that freezer is full of £10 notes and you've locked them until you can sell them. You're not allowed that £10 note until you sell that product.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, I agree in some ways, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. They ring up and we've got this new Chinese curry sauce, and we've got this new these new chicken strips. We actually started doing some chicken strips which were flavored and breadcrumbed, and they're amazing, and they've taken off really well. But I'm looking at pineapple fritters, huge margin, but we have to get a tin of them. You throw away, they don't turn over much, and I just think, well, it's pointless. So we just cut it all back, and it saves on a lot of waste as well, man. Saves on a lot of waste and just hassle. You've got a big order come through. This I don't know how chippies do it with burgers, and some do kebabs, some do pizzas, some do other bits and bobs. How do they cope? Because we get an order in for 5 fish and chips, and you got a pan full. I just want to make sure every piece of that fish coming out is spot on.
I guess they just need more staff. I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
But there's only so much you can juggle.
Yeah, I'd just like to see a chippy, a fish and chip shop. In my eyes, being traditional and doing the stuff that should do really well.
Yeah. And another terrible thing that's happened at the moment, it notes my sarcastic tone, is the lower VAT. How are you managing with this lower figure?
Oh, it's been absolutely wonderful, isn't it? It's been a real saviour, because when our takings dropped in this county lockdown we had 4 weeks ago, our takings dropped about 30 grand a week across the chain. So really, that extra 15% VAT or was VAT that we're keeping is hugely important. It didn't become icing on the cake then, and hallelujah, it became, God, we really need it.
Yeah.
And I think, there's going to be another lockdown sometime, maybe before Christmas, definitely after. And I don't know what government's going to be coming up in terms of grants or furlough. I know they're doing 80% furlough again now, but it's definitely needed. And thank God I haven't got a pub or a restaurant. I feel really sorry for them.
You feel like you'd probably get a third lockdown in Wales?
Yeah, definitely. January, February, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, definitely. I can just see everyone coming home from universities and Christmas time, people traveling back to their families wherever they may be in the UK, and the same in Europe. They're all going to come back, and naturally, there's going to be a natural spread there in that way. I can't see how it's not going to happen. I think then January, the startness of January. So if you're self-employed, you get your self-assessment on the 31st, plus the one you haven't paid from July, if you haven't paid it, plus the VAT, which you deferred. So people got to be really careful now and just make sure they got their sums right, because I think January, especially if there's another 2 week or a month lockdown, is going to be a nightmare. So I think everyone who's got money in the bank now from having good times in terms of takeaway in the last 6 months, don't think that that's all ready. It's going to go, and you're going to pull it out, and that's what you've earned, and you're going to take a tax bill and everything. I think you're actually going to need it.
Yeah.
I hope not, but I think don't get too excited right now.
Do you think it's been a bit of a pain having devolved nations through this pandemic?
Oh. Yeah, we've got a Labour First Minister called Mr. Drakeford, and we call him Mrs. Doubtfire, and I don't know if that's a bit unkind, but he's been very cautious, and he's pulled a few things out of the bag before the UK obviously doesn't get on with Bojo. So yeah, there's been a real pain, because you look at the border of Wales and England. There's a huge border,
Yeah.
and they've been trying to stop people coming in, telling people not to come in on holidays here. They did a 5-mile rule back in June. Don't travel 5 miles from your house.
What happened if you did? Like, what would happen if you got caught, at one of your shops, let's say, which is 10 miles away? What would happen?
I have.
Oh, okay.
Been stopped.
Oh.
Yeah, so stop. Where you going? What you doing? Going to my shop. It's work. Which one? La la la. Show my phone. They're fine. So I think the police, if people are coming down to Porthcawl for a beautiful walk on the promenade here, and we've got a board walk and about 8 beaches, and you can drive along 6 of them. It's a spectacular little town. If they saw the registration, there's a few patrol cars going on those days, and they could see the reg was from outside the county, but it was a real pain for the police. They were stopping, and not hugely, but I think they were just saying, look, you can't be here. Please just head back home. I think if you're a serial offender or you're really taking the mick, I think there's one guy caught going to Tenby in his van to get a bouncy castle from Newcastle. He got fined 60 quid and sent his way.
I couldn't think of a longer journey. Like, seriously.
Oh my God! Yeah, there's a double-sided sword to that, isn't there? They wanted to have a spin and get out and have a look around and be a bit naughty, but
He was probably hoping, well, it's under the guise of work, so what they're going to say to me? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been very weird. Different rules, not good. I just think let's just act as one nation.
I wonder if next time, and I know maybe the Welsh might put up with it, but I can't see the Scottish doing it. But I wonder if there's a pandemic next time. I wonder if there's just a law that comes in and says, look, we act as one. Yeah. And that way everyone's sort of singing from the same tune, if that makes sense. But I think without getting political, it has been a bit, one side has ran off and done something else. The other one up north has gone and done something else. The British, the people in England have waited or whatever. It always felt like that the devolved nations wanted to get a week ahead or a couple of weeks ahead than the English.
It's bizarre. It's like having 4 shops called Finnegans, and you go into each one of them. They don't look like each other. They've got completely different menus, different prices. You don't know where the hell you are. Well, so if you want to put it like that,
it's not that bizarre because you've got shops everywhere copying you. So it's actually happening in your world.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Maybe we need to send a cease and desist to Wales and Scotland then.
Oh, dear God. I just don't know. I think they need to get together. It's too confusing for people.
So when you were looking at sort of your click and collect and all that, was there a temptation to just go on to Just Eat or Uber Eats and all these and just skip all?
Yeah.
What sort of stopped you? Or I don't know if you are actually on them as well, but what's your thought process there?
Yeah. So we spoke to Andy Cook, who does the system we use, and we went on his Cook. Yeah, Andy Cook, sorry, yeah. And Andy and his daughter have been looking after us and sorting it all out. And it's been a really good system. So I thought, well, he wasn't too greedy in terms of the monthly fees he wanted and stuff. It was reasonable. So we stuck on that. But we have just also signed up for Just Eat in 4 shops. Because there's a different level of people in that Just Eat. They have it on their phone, all their details loaded on there. when they're hungry at night, they just scroll through and they go fish and chips. Oh, we'll have that, So I think that's a new type of customer again.
I think that's one of the arguments that one of my customers said. He said, like, for me, he says, Just Eat is like Amazon. Everyone's already got it. He goes, I don't have to tell them to download it, and they're happy to pay the price. So if they're happy to pay the price and they've already got the app, why would I try force them over to something I'm doing myself?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly right.
And even yesterday, I saw a friend of mine who's got a shop, and he was just promoting his own um, delivery service. And they were like, and a customer says, "Why don't you just go on Just Eat? I use Just Eat." And he just kindly said, "Oh, like, why out of interest? Because they will charge more." And she was like, I do everything on Just Eat," and that was it. And she seemed happy. She wasn't upset with him either, but she was just saying, And I think that there is that, look at your iPhone, look at my iPhone. It's just app after app after app after app, and then to say to people, "Oh, can you download one more?" I think people just get a bit like, oh, there's a bit of fatigue now.
Yeah, well, actually, our system, you can download an app. You can just click on our website; it takes you straight to it, so you don't have to really have that. It's similar, but yeah, the Just Eat is a whole different party. I think
Yeah, no,
it's a
definitely.
whole different party. It probably is a crossover 10 or 20%, but I think there's 80% you're going to see there. But of course, it hurts, doesn't it? Because it's 14% commission,
Yeah.
so it hurts, and they charge the customer 50p as well, admin fee, which you don't pay.
Yeah.
So I just wish I bought shares in Just Eat 10 years ago, or whatever it was they started. My God, they must be earning some money now.
It was amazing when they first started. It was two lads that owned a website called what was it called? It was like a rating website. They used to rate places, rated places or something. I can't remember. And no one thought it would work. No
No,
one thought it would work. They just like,
amazing.
who's going to want to order food off the internet? That's a distance.
Amazing. Well, the rep I dealt with now has just signed us up and just sent out machines. They're arriving today, funny enough.
Was there any wiggle room for a bit of negotiation, or are they just too busy for that at the moment?
I think there was an NFFF discount, a little bit, and but it took the whole process from start asking for it and getting here has taken 6 weeks, so it's not quick.
No, I guess.
And there's some serious forms you have to fill in, passports. Your food hygiene rating address has to be the same as a utility bill address, exactly, for all that pass there, all their PCI compliance and all this money laundering stuff.
A friend of mine said that for new restaurants or takeaways trying to join Just Eat, there is a bit of a problem at the moment because Just Eat say you need to have a minimum of a 3-star, well, or 3 out of 5 local rating from the EHO. But if you've not been tested yet from the local EHO, then how do you get your Just Eat sorted? So
Yeah, I suppose if you're a new startup,
yeah,
yeah, because you should have that within 8 weeks, really, shouldn't you? 10 weeks to start in. But if you haven't got that, it's a problem. I mean, we've done very well with we've worked hard with the food ratings. We've got 5 stars, which is good for 6 shops. I know there's probably people there with 10 and 20 and maybe Fish and Chicken with 40 that probably got 5 stars. But for us, it was good.
One thing that's always made me chuckle about Wales is that you legally have to have that in the window. Or at least, and I've been to some shops and you see it sort of tucked at the bottom of the door or in the corner. There's a poster near it, and you think, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can put it in your window or on your door front, and where you can put it is entirely up to you. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh, one
I
guy,
suppose.
one guy had it facing inwards, so when he opened the door, it was facing the back of the back of the wall.
All right, I got you. Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose that some people can be inventive. They caught off guard because it's very easy if they come in, you're caught off guard on a busy shift
Yeah,
and things aren't right. You haven't had time. If you're a one-man band, you haven't got someone like me pushing you or Sarah, my wife, pushing around, going, "Why isn't this filled in? Get it filled in." And showing them it's easy to let it slip. They're working long hours.
yeah,
Closing up the end of the night. Oh my God, I'll fill the forms in tomorrow. 9 o'clock, EHO's outside.
yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's a bit like putting away your money for the VAT. You just got to be religious about it and do
Yeah,
it.
it's true. Any thoughts about the future of the industry before we crack on for today?
Well, future is going to be very interesting, isn't it? Because where are we now? November. Next 6 months are going to be, again, I think, totally we're going to be literally sitting on the edge of our seats again. You sort of get into a rut where everything's calming down. You sort of start taking tidy money again, and something else happens.
Yeah.
That's what's been a real roller coaster on this one. But I think the future of the industry is going to be amazing fish and chips.
Uh,
I just think that people got to be prepared. You can't make money with your hands in your pockets. And you've got to get off your ass and do some stuff and get some good people around you.
I think a few people are going to get pretty used to that 5% VAT. I think no one's going to want to see that go away. I can see another extension on the cards, but I don't think it's going to stay forever.
No, definitely not.
So,
France, they charge 10% VAT on food,
yeah.
20% on drink, which I think is good
But
because people
do
try.
they not charge 10% VAT on all food? It's not just hot food, is it?
No, 10% VAT if you're out in a
Oh,
restaurant,
okay.
eating anything like that, catering, not in
Oh,
supermarkets,
okay.
nothing like UK. So when you're out hospitality, it's 10%.
That's
They give you a bill with a split on there, call it TVA. I think come the first of April, isn't it?
yeah,
The VAT comes in. I don't think they'll do it. I think they'll say, right, it's 12.5%, or it's
yeah. Maybe
15,
phase
or
it back in.
yeah, I think they will, because hospitality, we know takeaways have been fairly good, but we haven't been fairly good the last 3 weeks in this lockdown. I think people have been on furlough. They're missing 30, 20, 30, 40% of their wages for a while, losing their jobs. Christmas is coming. I think you can't be too complacent about it, even though we've had a very good time. But once we're out of all this, I think old Rishi, love him. We got Rishi mugs in our house now.
Oh, really?
Got the picture of Rishi on there. Yeah, I love
I
Rishi.
think it's been great. I really do.
He's been
And
great. I just love him. I love his whole demeanor. I like the way he delivers everything he says. I like the way he is. I just think he's done a good job, personally.
he's also very, the way he talks is compassionate. He's not just talking like an accountant. He is literally speaking to the people. And I'm not gonna. I don't mind Boris either. I like the way I know people may not agree with him or whatever, but I don't mind him either. I think on the whole, I know a lot of people want to say the government's done a really poor job, but when you look on a broader worldwide view, we've been very lucky over here. Very lucky. Um, in America, I think people that work for companies, so employees, all they got was like one stimulus check for 1,500 quid in like 4 months, 5 months. And you think over here we got, well, employees got 80% for as long as they were furloughed. So I don't know. I think we can be too harsh sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think people are way too harsh. I can imagine if Jeremy Corbyn was running the show. God knows what would happen then. They've had that minefield now. He's just been expelled and la la la. But no, Rishi and Boris, they're always going to have their haters, aren't they? But you've got to remember that how do you go about doing any of this when it's never happened before?
Yeah.
Obviously they made mistakes with care homes and shipping people out, but I think they've done a good job, and the 5% VAT is going to save a lot of the industry.
The problem is, I think we were just talking about how things have changed so much in the last 6 months and how much they're going to change in the next 6 months. We're going to know, if we look back at this conversation in 6 months, not like that we've revealed anything, but we're going to probably say, wow, we were naive then. Oh, wow, we didn't know this then. And that's the same 6 months ago. It's all right us all saying now, oh, they shouldn't have put people in nursing homes. But where's the safest place for the elderly without knowing who COVID was targeting? It's the old people's homes. So I'm not being funny. At the time, you can see how they thought that was the best place for them.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But as you said, Stelios, the next 6 months. This is why I'm not holding my breath. I'm just, we got good bank accounts at the moment. We've been doing good figures up until the 22nd of September. I hope it's going to come back now on Monday, but I'm not holding my breath. I think it's going to be a rocky ride the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I think fish and chips will always do well if you've got a good product, beautiful fish, crispy batter, lovely cut chips, good service. You're always going to do well. But it doesn't matter. It's people's income I'm worried about, and people's perception of, I don't know if I really want to be spending this now. I don't know if I got my job. I can't go on holiday. They'll have their treats on weekends. I think it'll be really good. But like you said, I think in 6 months when we look back, it's going to be another roller coaster again.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who thinks they've got I got 100 grand in the bank now. It's unbelievable. Just be careful.
I know of some people that I've been told about that got the bounce back loan and went and bought a new car, and
Oh, Stelios, I tell you what, there's a mate of mine up north. You won't believe this, but I can promise you it's true. He went on Facebook, and I know him quite well because he does track days with me, and he was all over Facebook. So he gets a phone call on a Wednesday. You've got a second-hand Porsche Cayman, 40 grand. Yeah, I have, yeah. I'm interested what the tyres like. He said, oh, tyres are fine, 8 mil or whatever. Great, okay, I'll have it. He said, well, you haven't seen the car. He said, no, I'll have it. I'll come down Friday afternoon, pick it up. So he said, give me your bank's details, sort code, account, name of the business. I'll get it all sent over to you Friday morning, hopefully. I'll ring you lunchtime, so gives it all out. Friday lunchtime, nothing. So he rings him up, says, nothing here, mate, nothing's come through. He said, oh, that's strange. I'll word my bookkeeper now. He said, what I'm looking at, see, my company's BBL Limited. It'll be over to you, no problem. 4 o'clock, 40 grand comes in the account. I said, this is incredible. Never sold a car like this before, ever. Rings the guy, your money's here. Yeah, no problem like that. And he was just questioning him. He said, right, you're coming down. And he said, I've never had a car bought this way before. And the guy goes, oh, it's fine. What are you worried about? Put the phone down. So he rings his bank, personal bank, business manager. So look, I've got 40 grand in. And you can't take this away. It's there now. It's not going to be sucked back out. It's being paid and like that. So yeah, let me just check. He goes, yeah. That's your bounce back loan you applied for. He goes, what do you mean, bounce back loan? I haven't applied for a bounce back loan. So you have.
I get it.
So the guy's applied for a bounce back loan. The money's gone to his account. He's told him his BBL Limited. The guy's like, I'll just check this out a bit. And it was his own bounce back loan, which he didn't apply for.
Oh.
The guy never turned up on the Friday night to pick it up. He must have got sight of sound that he's getting a bit too sniffy. So that was a pretty bloody
That's a bit of a scam. That was close, wasn't it? Wow.
It was very close, yeah, because the car would have been gone. Okay, they knew the car and the VIN number and the reg, but it would have been gone.
It's amazing how quick fraudsters can get off the mark, isn't it? They just smell something and they're out. Yeah.
So yeah, I know people have had 2 bounce back loans because we run ours as 2 limited companies and 1 sole trader.
Yeah.
And some people have borrowed 3, 150 if they can get it. You're not supposed to be able to borrow. They're borrowing the money, and 2 limited companies and a sole trader. I haven't taken a bounce back loan myself, but they've done that, and they think, oh, whoopee. So you've got to be careful. They've gone and bought a house or bought a plot of land.
Yeah.
It's just taking the mick, and it's really, it sounds a bit pathetic, but it's spoiling it for everyone else because, they're going to be more wary of doing this. I don't know how they're going to sort that out, because if you were taking 50 grand out of each business, you could have taken, right, that's my wage, 50 grand out of each business, or 40 grand, whatever it is, or 20, whatever it may be, and then borrowed a bounce back loan for each one, saying, well, that was towards my wages.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a grey area. Look, 12 months, they extended that now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so.
It was the 30th of November they extended it to, but I think they've extended it again. So if anyone's in trouble,
it makes sense to have it as a nest egg. You might not need it, but you may need it, but to go and spend it on a new car is probably a bit risky.
Well, I know what they've done. If they've gone and bought a high-end car and it's £1,000 a month, they've gone and used that, and they'll refinance it in 11 months' time.
Yeah.
And they've saved 11 grand.
Yeah.
And then they'll just refinance the car.
Yeah.
So it is open to abuse.
But to be fair, with the bounce back, they did say use it for whatever you need. So then it's a matter of need and want, isn't it? So
yeah, and in the small print, it's basically saying, if you've been COVID affected, and it goes towards your business. But you can use it to pay wages. You can use it to pay your own wage. Yeah. So it's a great area.
I know a friend of mine, he got the bounce back loan and he's consolidated some other loans. And he said, and then that makes sense as well, because that's going to put him in a stronger position post-COVID. So
absolutely. We've got 3 tiny little loans, 30 grand, 3 of them for the 3 entities. So we'll probably take one. I can't remember when the new deadline is, if it's the 30th of November or if he has extended it to January, but we'll probably take one at the last minute because obviously the longer you leave it, like
Yeah.
this next year you have to pay it back. So we may do that, and I think we will because it's 2.5. I think we're paying 4.3. So
There you go.
it's not a lot, but it helps.
Every little helps, as Tesco says. Well, look, Hugh, it's been great, mate. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, nice to speak to you, Stelios.
After this lockdown, I'll pop over and have a coffee with you. After our lockdown, not yours, of course.
You'd be more than welcome. You can come to the restaurant if it's still open. If we haven't gone into another one, you can have a nice bit of coffee and
Lovely.
You can try sunflower oil fish.
Oh, I've had it before. I'm sure it'll be fine.
All
All right, mate.
Nice to see you.
Have a great day.